What's up everybody, Mablak here. Welcome to part 2 of the Worms Armageddon roping tutorial series. For this one, we're going to look at kicks, and in the first tutorial we covered all the basics, scrolls, spikes, and shadows. So if you want to rope along with me, you can download this map and put it in the right folder. That's all in the description. So what's a kick? A kick is when we bounce off the ceiling like this, just to get the maximum possible speed. And the cool thing is, when you do this, you can pretty much guarantee that you're going to be at max speed. So it's a great way to get speed super fast. And let's just look at single kicks to start off with. So to do a kick, you're going to want to build up some horizontal speed first. And here's a great way to do this. Start at a high part of the map, aim at a pretty good angle towards the ceiling, and we're going to fling ourselves once to the right, and then we're going to pull ourselves into the ceiling and bounce off, just holding up and right. So fling myself once, hold up and right, and fling. And you want to fling yourself around when you're horizontal. So you're trying to aim and make your worm about as horizontal as possible, or even a little bit above the horizontal. If you happen to do a kick and you go sort of down like that, it's okay and you can recover from that. But it tends to be a little bit better if you can actually go a little bit above the horizontal like that, especially because that means the angle of reattachment is going to be more forward instead of like backwards. So that's generally going to be the way you want to do it. And you might notice with kicks, it's pretty hard to do them unless you have a little bit of speed first. So if I was to just start here and just aim my rope straight up, well, it's really hard to do a kick. I can't really pull myself into the ceiling. One thing you can also do, I can aim almost as horizontally as possible. Then I'm definitely going to have enough momentum to do a full powered kick. Another way to build up speed at the start, if you don't have very much, you can just extend your rope using down, pull it in with up and left, and up and right. And eventually you will have enough speed. But typically you kind of want to fling yourself first, and then you'll have enough momentum to do a kick. So one thing I'd recommend practicing, just start here, do a little fling forward, hold up and right, fling yourself back, then you're about where you started from, and just do this over and over again. And you'll get more of a feel for like when to release. So you can do it on the left side of the map here. And I would say also try it on the right side of the map. So same thing, face to the left, do a little fling, hold up and left, and then try to release yourself about as horizontally as possible. And just make your way back here. So just do this a handful of times, and that's going to improve your kicking. There's so many ways to do a basic kick, and I'm going to start with the easiest. Typically, you're going to have the easiest time doing kicks when your rope is as long as possible. So what I'm going to do here, fling myself once to the left, then I'm going to hold up and left, starting to do a kick. As I get to the ceiling, I'm going to let go of the up arrow, and I'm just going to be holding left. And the reason for that is so my rope can stay long. On the way out, I'm going to hold up and right. So the whole thing looks like this. And if I'm doing a kick bouncing off the right side, same thing, just hold up and right. As I hit the ceiling, I'm just holding right. And then on the way out, I'm going to hold up and left and do the fling. So as you can see, my rope is staying really, really long as I'm doing these kicks. And these ones aren't the most impressive looking. They're really easy to do. I would say for practice, just keep doing these as long as you can in the center area. But these kicks are perfectly serviceable and they do get you to max speed. So you can kind of control exactly how far away from the top of the map you want to be. If you're doing these kicks, there's very little risk of falling, which is one of the nice parts about them. Now, typically the fastest way to do a kick, if I'm facing to the right like this, hold up and right, all the way through hitting the ceiling, and then after you hit, just change it to up and left, and then just kind of release about at the horizontal. Or if I'm facing the other way, same thing, hold up and left, and then just hold up and right after you hit the ceiling. And that's basically the most difficult and sort of the best and most interesting looking way of doing a kick. It is a bit hard though, but the cool thing is you can kind of control your distance away from the ceiling. One way to do that is to just press up exactly as much as you need to, and you can kind of release the up arrow whenever you want to in the process of doing a kick. So depending on how hard or easy you want to make it, how safe you want to be, you can kind of release that up arrow either on the going into the kick phase or the going out of the kick phase. Bad news, your kick just got interrupted. Good news, you wanted it to be interrupted. So if I'm coming along and I bump into this thing right as I'm going to do a kick, you might think this is just getting in the way, this is interference. But you can bounce off this little pillar and actually turn it into a kick. So as you're going along, just hold up and right, and you can just pull it all the way up into the ceiling and then just keep going. Or if you're coming from the left side and I'm flying along and I bump into this thing, I can just keep going and turn it into a kick. So I'm just calling this a bump kick. It's never really had a name before, which is weird. But any obstacle that you kind of bump into, you can kind of turn it into a kick as long as you just prepare ahead of time, you know, mentally prepare yourself. Sometimes bump kicks can be super useful in rope races too, usually only if you have enough room though. So as this worm is rounding the corner, by attaching high up here and bouncing off this little stair step, you can do a bump kick, and that actually gets you quite a bit of speed at this part. Double your pleasure, double your fun, double your kicks. So to do a double kick, all you have to do is bounce off the ceiling 2 times in a row and then launch your kick. So a super easy way to do that would kind of be keeping your rope long and just going like bounce, 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 bounce. So there's a pretty easy way to do that if you don't hold up very much and you kind of just hold left and right to whatever extent you can. You can do that if you get a good amount of momentum to start with, but that's kind of like the easy way to do a double kick. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. I'm pretty much just holding left and right as I do those ones. So doing a harder double kick and one that looks cool would kind of just be holding up and right the whole way through. So like this, 1, 2. And that's a lot harder to do. You do have to get the timing for that, but it's actually a pretty useful timing to get. Or if I'm facing left, bouncing off to the left side first, I would hold up and left, 1, 2. And you do need to give yourself quite a bit of rope to start with. If you do it like starting from here, it could be pretty tough. 1, 2. You can still do it, but it really depends. You kind of gotta start with a good amount of rope to have a better chance of success. Now, it's important to note that a double kick is kind of a luxury. You pretty much never actually need it. It's mostly something that just looks cool, but there are cases in rope races where it can actually save you time. It's just that oftentimes the risk isn't worth the reward. But if you have a long straightaway section like this, down to the right here, it may actually be worth trying, at least if you really, really need to shave off a second or something. So if you want to do a double kick in an area where you don't have much space, there is kind of a way to do it. You just want to get muscle memory down of an exact velocity that your worm has and rope length. So if you can get the same rough velocity of your worm going a certain speed and a certain distance from the ceiling, then you can actually kind of get a routine for doing a double kick every time where maybe you just hold up and right. Now, once again, doing these double kicks in these tiny spaces, really kind of an advanced strat, so it's not something you have to work on right away, but it is cool to know and just fun to mess around with every now and then. But let's take a look at sort of the physics of the game. So, one reason that this is so difficult to do is just the fact that the game runs at 50 frames per second. So take a look at what happens when I just get my worm pressed up against the ceiling, and I'm just rotating back and forth, and we're just going one frame at a time. So see how I'm just jiggling back and forth like this? What that means is, just due to the limited frame rate of the game, there's only two directions that my worm can possibly fly out in, just from this angle right here. So if I extend my rope a little bit, and I'm still just kind of jiggling back and forth as fast as I can on the ceiling, you might notice I have a few more angles that I can fly out at. And if I get a little bit longer, you can see a little more clearly. So what? 1, 2, 3, 4. So my angles are a little less limited, and basically the further my rope gets, the more angles I'll have to choose from, and the more likely it is I'll actually be able to fly in a horizontal line, which is what I want. But the faster you're going and the closer you are to the ceiling, the harder it's going to be to actually fly in a horizontal line, unless, once again, you sort of have everything pre-planned and you're kind of executing the same move over and over again. So like if you have the same rope length, the same rope angle, and the same initial velocity, you can kind of get a routine for doing a double kick, even despite that limitation of having a limited number of angles that you can fly out at. And as the rope gets much longer, you can kind of see, like, okay, there's a lot of angles I can have. There's at least several angles I can fly out at where I'm actually going to fly horizontally. Question: can we go further? Answer: oh yes, we can do a triple kick. So what you're going to want to do, stand about here on the map, just aim up and right a bit, and hold up and right. And the timing's going to be really hard, but it's going to go like 1, 2, 3. We're going to hit the ceiling 3 times and release. And really hard to get on your first try, but let's try. So yeah, it can be pretty fun to try and see how many triple kicks you can get in a row. And of course, this is the hard way, just holding up and right the whole time. You can kind of ease up on holding that up arrow if you want to make it just a little bit easier. And triple kicks are kind of a luxury. You're not ever going to super need them. They're more of a stylistic thing. So good for warmers, but you're not going to ever have to bounce that many times. All right, it's time to try a few practice exercises with kicks where we're also incorporating other moves. A common combo would be kicks followed by scrolls. So what we can do here, just do a kick and then try to do 2 scrolls and do it into another kick. So it's going to look something like this. So kick, 1, 2, kick, 1, 2, kick, 1, 2, kick, 1, 2. And you can do those as fast or slow as you're comfortable with. As you keep going, it'll get faster and faster. And you just want to try and see how long you can keep this pattern going. 1, 2. All right, here's another combo we can try, a kick into a spike. And you can do this pretty much anywhere on the map, but let's try it over here. So you just get to a high part of the map, aim forward a little bit, do a kick, and then try to do a spike right here. It can be a soft spike or a hard spike. Okay, so kick into a spike, and then you can just kind of fling yourself back up. Kick, spike. You can try it in the center of the map too. start over here, we're kicking to the right. If you give yourself a lot of rope, you can do a better spike. And another combo to try, you can try a kick into a shadow. So I'm just going to kick to the left here and then try to follow it up with the shadow. Once again, easier if you have longer rope to try and practice these. And once you attach at the bottom, you can just quickly fling yourself back up. Now, at a super high level, you can check out Komito, aka the Komodo, who has kicks into scrolls that are just super flat and super tappy. They look really awesome, and he uses both finger roll, which is where you alternate back and forth with your index and middle finger, and his own signature brand of two-handed tapping. Now there's another kind of kick which I'm just calling a Bouncy Multi-kick, because you can do a double kick, a triple kick, whatever with this method. You just pull into the ceiling with a lot of velocity, then just hold left or right, and you'll notice you keep going forever, so you can maintain your speed as long as you're close enough to the ceiling. And you can do a kick out of this if you just time it, just be like now, 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 as you're at the horizontal. And it's a bit difficult to do, but if you practice it, you can get the timing. And this is kind of cool to do for double kicks, triple kicks. You can go beyond that, but it's not quite as impressive if you just stay bouncing forever. And let's take a look at some of the bouncy kicks employed by Korean Red Dragon, who's a long-time prominent roper who is very stylish. There's a pretty advanced form of kick practice, which I just call the kick flurry. It's when you kick back and forth literally as fast as possible. It's something I picked up from Salty K9 back in the day. And sometimes you just kick holding left or right, sometimes you hold up and right, sometimes you hold no buttons at all, sometimes you toss in a double kick. You're basically just going insano mode on your kicks, and if you practice it, you will get faster and faster. But here's what it looks like. So yeah, it's really hard to do. You can do it more slowly at first, and sort of as you get faster at tapping, you can start to do it more and more quickly, but it's really just kind of a reflex thing. It's fun for playing warmers. You're not going to get a whole lot of like actual utility out of it, although it might just kind of generally improve your roping ability, but it's mostly just fun to do and looks cool. One could argue the ultimate form of the kick is the pixel kick. Now this is something that is totally down to luck, but if you just pull yourself into the ceiling with up and left and then just keep holding left, you'll start vibrating in place, and sometimes you can actually kick out from here. Most of the time you're just going to fall like this. But let's see what happens when I actually get it. So as you can see, these are very, very hard to get, and there was an old wormer named Valrin, who was kind of a legendary roper, and there was kind of a myth going around that he did, I don't know, like 40 or 50 pixel kicks in a row, which I think is impossible. This was before the time of replays, but there were a lot of old legends like that. Pixel kicks, as far as I know, cannot be timed, but they are kind of cool if you can get them. Now, as you can see right there, I did actually kind of time those ones, but those, I don't know if those could be qualified as pixel kicks. I was mostly just doing like a quad or quint. One last thing about kicks, you don't have to do them on a perfectly flat ceiling. You can do them on various parts of the map as long as you're on the underside of something. And it's good to practice them for various obstacles that you might encounter, because you won't always encounter a flat ceiling. So try downloading this map also in the description, and just get to the center of the map here, and just aim at this little thing, and I want you to try and do a kick to the right. So just hold up and left. And it's good to get the timing so that you go roughly horizontal. You can go a little bit up too, that's also fine. But it's just good to get used to timing things on non-flat surfaces. So we can also do kicks from various parts of the map here. We can do a kick from here like this. You can attach to this part and try to do a kick that just goes up and to the right. Like that. It's actually pretty hard to get it to go perfectly horizontal. And we can also attach to this part of the map. I would say try to do a kick that starts roughly here, and you attach to the right border of the map. You can even do bounces a couple times like this. That can even make the kick easier to do. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something. This really just covered some of the very basics of roping. There's so many more moves to cover and just techniques in general. And if you want some more maps to practice on for rope racing, ropers, whatever, just go to tus-wa.com, the ultimate site. This is the longest running Worms League, and it's also a map and scheme database, along with other files that you might need. So if you go here and go to maps, you have a selection of rope race maps. You have like over 5,000. You also have ropers. You also have warmers. There are tons and tons of maps to practice on, and it's a good way to learn about new schemes also. And to organize games, you can definitely just hop onto WormNet, or you can come to one of the several Discords below. So I'll have links in the description. So I'll see you next time.